Welcome. Come one, come all to the stream where it's f***ing we ball. Cheers to each and every one of you. Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, go.
You got it?
Yeah, go.
All right. What's up, man? Y'all already know, man. It's your boy, Drizzy Drake, coming to you, man. Whenever y'all in L.A., man, tapping with my man, Don Pax, man. He got all that man. Y'all be putting in your arm. He got that, man. Y'all be off that It's whatever you want to do. Y'all still on them 30s. You got to with Don Pax, perk 80s. You know what I'm saying? Y'all be with them blue, man. Get on them reds. For real, man. Y'all know what it is, though, man. Tapping with my dog, man. You know what I'm saying? Tap into you, tap out. It's like that. You know what I'm saying? For real. Yeah.
All right, good.
Yo, call declined.
Embarrassing.
I think you just gotta know what you stand for and know what you represent and know what's true to you. Because you can't please everybody. You can't be everything to everybody, but you could be true. You could be yourself and comfortable in your skin and just represent what's real to you.
Hello and good evening. I have my newscaster shirt on because we are going to be talking about the world famous and now infamous Aubrey Graham. Aubrey Graham! We're going to be talking about Drake because he is crying a river of tears due to his recent upset against Kendrick Lamar.
Spooky ooky.
We got to talk about it, y'all, because Drake is crying. And he's been crying, but he's crying even harder now because not only did he lose the rap battle of this generation, but now he's also losing his pride and he may even lose his connections in the industry. And I want to talk to you guys about it because a lot of people tend to not see the bigger picture of situations. And I'm that girl. I'm that girl that shows you the wider scope to a lot of these situations that we come across in everyday media and life. So you guys stick around, be sure to like and subscribe to continue to catch the vibe, and let's get into it. You guys, so basically the situation is right now with Drake that he is proving to be rather upset about certain situations regarding his recent rap battle beef with Kendrick Lamar.
For the second time this week, hip-hop superstar Drake says he's taken Universal Music Group to court. His petition claims UMG knew Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, contained defamatory language about Drake's sex life, but released the song anyway and promoted it illegally.
The petition filed in Texas claims UMG knew Lamar's record contained false language accusing Drake of sex offenses, but chose to release it anyway. It also alleges that UMG made, quote, covert payments to a number of platforms, including radio stations, to play and promote Not Like Us without disclosing those payments to listeners. The legal filing specifically mentions iHeartRadio as one possible recipient of UMG's payments. This latest filing came less than a day after Drake submitted a related petition in New York alleging UMG and Spotify illegally boosted the streaming numbers for Not Like Us.
UMG denies that it illegally promoted Lamar's track, calling the allegations, quote, offensive and untrue. iHeartMedia, which owns iHeartRadio, has declined to comment on the ongoing legal process. CBS News also reached out to Spotify, but we have not heard back.
Now, Me personally, I really don't care about none of this stuff, but it's very entertaining. And I feel like that's why a lot of us tune in. And, you know, it's guilty pleasure. We all do it. But right now, the situation is gaining momentum when it comes to Drake making a fool out of himself, y'all, because he is now upset, okay, about the way that he claims to have been treated when it comes to this rap beef. Now, my personal opinion when it comes to Drake is I feel like he's kind of like the Keith Sweat of quote unquote rap or hip hop, whatever you want to call it. I got plenty of. He just be crying. He's been crying for years. He's been crying on all of his albums.
Yo, you straight? Yeah, I'm good. No, I'm good. It's been a long fight. It's been a long fight, and I just had to have a warrior spirit, and that's all. So I'm just.
And personally, for me, there's certain Drake songs and albums that I'm more familiar with, but I actually knew that Drake was a problem when he ended up being one of the culprit reasons for my teen pregnancy. Okay, when that first album came out in 2009, So Good, what it was called? I don't know, child. It wasn't an album. I don't know what it was. I guess it was a mixtape. When that So Far Gone little ensemble, that's what led to my first son being conceived. And I should have known at that time that he was a problem. But I felt at that point in time that his music was somewhat relatable. Like a lot of people were enjoying his music. And it wasn't necessarily that he was trying to be something that he wasn't at that point. It was kind of like a situation where he came off as more authentic to who he truly is. But I'm telling y'all, he's been crying. He's been crying and whining for a long time.
She's someone I've been in love with since I was 22 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award for 2016, Rihanna.
And I think people just, you know, kind of brushed over it because it was Drake, or we've just been bombarded with Drake. You know how things go. The same thing that he's upset about when it comes to Not Like Us is the same thing that we've all been enduring this whole time. And I know everybody's talking about this, but aside from the situation that's currently going on now, where it seems that Drake is trying to create this whirlwind tornado effect within the music industry, I believe that there is enough cause to really look at this and see kind of like why this is happening. And not only why it's happening, but more so what it all means.
No, I'm an anomaly.
Did you have trouble saying that word?
I don't know why I did.
Try it again.
I'm an anomaly.
Good job.
So at this particular point in time, Drake is not looked at very highly in the media. Like from what I see, people's sentiments on Drake have kind of been shifting for the last few years. I'm not exactly sure when it happened because I don't listen very closely to his music, but his last few albums have not been received in the same way as some of his previous albums or some of his work that was more pushed or more popular. He kind of was getting into that grandpa stage of the music industry or of creativity where I feel like he was very much so comfortable and he didn't really care how people viewed him. He didn't really care what people thought of his music. He just knew that he was intertwined in this machine that was making him a great deal of money, and where he could make a great deal of money, not only for himself, but also for the record execs, the label heads, all of the people who are in charge of producing and distributing his music. So as of right now, being as that was the case, it doesn't feel like he was very hungry or that he was putting a lot of effort into his music. He kind of rested or began to rest in the comfortability of who he is, of Drake. And I think that's why people began to perceive him in a different light. Not only the way that things go, you know, on the back end, you know, when things in the dark come to the light, all that hoopla and whatnot, because things do come to the light.
I know I'm coming. They know I'm coming.
All of the things that I feel like he's been doing on the back end behind the scenes were beginning to emerge, not only with the people people who he was privately associated with, but also when it comes to the peripheral vision of the public. They were losing focus on Drake, the mogul, or Drake, the multi-million-dollar artist, and more so starting to focus on the people around Drake, the things that were going on with Drake, the hidden subliminal messages and the hidden things that we're starting to see pop up with a lot of people who are in prominent places. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, you know, it might be unfortunate for Drake, but fortunate for the public, a lot of people are starting to look a lot more closely at situations involving different people in prominent positions. And Drake is currently in a place where I feel he's learning the same lesson as a lot of people who have come before him. They lift you up just to watch you fall. That should be a song. They lift you up to watch you fall. Okay, no, I'm just playing. But because of that, Drake is now being viewed in a really negative light. And I think that it's, you know, it's warranted, because a lot of the ways that we see public figures, whether they're musicians, actors and actresses, politicians, influencers, they all are just people. They're all just individuals. They aren't like some superhuman Avengers race of extra special beings that don't have the same issues and struggles and problems as us. And I think a lot of people are beginning to see that now. And unfortunately for Drake, it means that he's not in the position that he was a few years ago. Now, when it comes to Not Like Us and what it did, this particular diss track was very instrumental in highlighting something that was already happening anyway. It highlighted a lot of things about Drake that were being whispered and things that people were saying, maybe in the industry or that inside people knew about, but they weren't really talking about, or, you know, obscure different conversations that were going on that Drake could kind of like smudge out. That's what it highlighted. That's what this diss track basically proliferated and showed everyone at a magnified scale, at a magnified level. It came from a person who the populace and the community and people as a whole enjoy hearing from. So that also added fuel to the fire. And I feel like whatever this song was saying not only capitalized on what was already being said, but it made a point of being right on time when it comes to what people were ready to hear. No one else could have done Not Like Us the way that Kendrick did Not Like Us. Like, if there was any other artist who decided to make this type of diss track against Drake, I don't think it would have held the same weight as the fact that Kendrick did it. And I kind of feel like Drake has brought it on himself. I feel like there's been a lot of negativity that he's allowed to surround him, but also negativity when it comes to how he's decided to move and how he's decided to treat people within the industry. Not necessarily saying that I know, because this is third-party information that I've heard from other sources. However, it is true that he gives off this very arrogant vibe that I believe portrayed him as a person who wasn't very like approachable or very likable, even though he was trying really hard to make it seem like that's how he is, even though word on the curb is that that's not how he is, and that he moves kind of funny on the back end. Okay, so basically what Not Like Us did was shine a spotlight on that attitude and that behavior and the type of person who he is without necessarily having to do much, because it was already out there. I'm not saying Not Like Us isn't a banger, because it's definitely a banger. And what got me about this whole case is like Drake sitting here trying to say that the song was pushed and it was heavily pushed and wooty whoop blase blah. But y'all listen, the viciousness of that diss track was ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. My kids, my oldest two, 14, 13, right? I got one in high school and I got one in middle school. And the fact that they knew the words to the diss track, not just because they heard it from me, but my kids hear me listen to certain music. They hear me listen to a lot of music and different types of music, different genres of music. And sometimes they remember the songs, but when I tell you, my kids, my older two sons, remembered the lyrics to Not Like Us verbatim with the quickness, to the point where I'm like, y'all gotta be at school talking about this. Y'all have to be in the hallway Talking about they not like us. They not like us. Yeah, when I tell you that song went hard, and for him to say that it was pushed aggressively or like bolstered when it comes to how popular it was, he's salty. You know what I mean? Like, he's salty. And what it did as a diss track or as a song or whatever you want to call it was kind of like bring the people together. And it became something that wasn't necessarily just about Drake. That's why I said like it was perfectly timed, because it's talking about topics and subjects that Drake has been affiliated and associated with and benefited from. But it's also touching on topics that are more relatable to the average everyday person in a certain way. Like, I'm not sure the specific lyrics, but the vibe of the song for me kind of felt like an anthem. It felt like an anthem for regular people who were kind of like in a place where they were tired of people posing to be something that they're not, or pretending to be supporting the cause, whatever your cause personally may be. But it was like, hey, this song is highlighting how sick we are as a group of people perpetrating like they give a fuck about us or care about our plight when we know they actually don't. And it highlighted like people's work conditions. People could use this chorus for like their bosses or for, you know, fake friends, fake family members, just any situation where you may have felt marginalized or you may have felt like you were misunderstood because someone was acting as if they were with you and supporting you or just like you, when in fact they were not like you. Okay, so that's what the song did. Not only did it capitalize on the moment by pointing out some things that people were tired of universally, or maybe peeping game on universally with Drake, but it also showed a relatability to the average person, the average human's plight in the world. And that's what made it golden. I don't care how much they tried to perpetuate it out to the world. It was going to reach the world no matter what, because it was a song for the world. Like, whether it was governments, whether it was leadership at your job or whatever, it was a song for the world. Even with me, like, I don't have Spotify like that. I download Spotify when people I know put music on Spotify, and then I remove Spotify. Because, I mean, now I have an iPhone, so I use usually Apple Music, but I don't even like go on Apple Music and browse. Like, I go on Apple Music to look at the playlist that I've collected. And then when I hear songs like out in the world, out in public, you know, wherever I go, whether it's through friends or just through public places, then I'll go into Apple Music and specifically search that song and then add it to my playlist. Not Like Us is definitely on my playlist. I would go to the grocery store and hear Not Like Us playing in other people's cars. I would hear it playing at the club. I would hear it playing wherever music was played. I'm talking about in the wing place. I feel like Walmart might have played it one time, because I went in Walmart and heard The Weeknd. But I believe that there was like a major like grocery store or somewhere that I went where you would not expect to hear Not Like Us, and they were playing Not Like Us. So
I'm at the pool party. BBL Drizzy, I'm at the pool party, and they just called you a petty.
Child, that's what the song did. Not just for Drake, but for everybody. Now, moving forward with what I want to talk to you guys about is what Drake is learning from this situation. And I'm going to tell you what Drake is learning from this situation. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard lesson to learn that I feel like a lot of aspiring musicians, artists, actors, actresses, prolific figures in our world should learn. And what Drake is having to learn now is that he's not that important. He's having to learn how unimportant he truly is. And the word that came to mind, like randomly, which sometimes this happens for me, like if you guys have not watched my Cosmic Convos, definitely be sure to check those out, because we have conversations about things that I kind of get in the peripheral of my mind when it comes to more prophetic messages that I sometimes share with you guys. However, sometimes I have like these things that pop up in my mind. And when I was thinking about talking about this topic, because I wanted to talk about this topic with Drake and highlight some of the more deeper things that are going on, the pyramid of capitalism came up in my mind. Looking this up and finding the AI overview, which is now what they show us all the time, I did not know that there was a such thing as a pyramid of capitalism. In my mind, I just heard capitalism pyramid. And then when I looked it up, it brought up the pyramid of capitalism, which is a 1911 American cartoon and caricature that criticizes capitalism. It depicts the social class and economic inequality of capitalism through a pyramid structure. The image is based on a Russian flyer from around 1901. I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see it, but it basically has this whole pyramid where money is at the top. So basically money is the most important. But you'll see that the people with the most importance when it comes to this system are ordered from most wealthy to least wealthy, at least in terms of financial status. Very interesting also that the religious system is included within this very closely to the top of the pyramid. So I guess we're going to have to talk about that. But it shows all of these different groups. And basically on the level where it says we eat for you, which I feel is the section of the pyramid where Drake would be most closely connected to, it showed me something very interesting. And I thought about this when the story first broke about this whole situation and what it means and what it's saying. But basically, you guys, Drake is starting to realize, even if he is in the section of the pyramid that isn't as low as you or I or some of us who are barely scraping by, doing the services, doing the hard labor, doing the work, even if he's not on that level, the lesson that he's learning right now is how close he is to that level, and that he really and truly has not escaped from the system in itself. I know I got a lisp now, y'all. It's hard to talk. But we're making it through. But he's not escaped. And he's learning a hard lesson that even though he fancies himself as being extremely important, he's actually not that important. And he's not that far away from being back in an average Joe, average salary lifestyle. He's learning that he's still just a cog in the wheel. He's learning that all of his accomplishments and everything that he sees as monumental within his life, or he feels categorizes him above people like you and me, actually means nothing. Because when they say that you're done, they're going to make sure that you're done, allegedly. When they, meaning the people who are at the top of this pyramid, are ready to get rid of you, or they're tired of the things that you're doing, they're going to get rid of you. And they're not going to care who your family is, or who you're connected to, or what associates that you have working on your team. They're not going to care if you have kids. They're not going to care if you're terminally ill. They're not going to care if you have problems with addiction or issues that you're facing that are difficult for you to get out of. They're going to put on their steel toe boot and kick you in the butt right off the pyramid to the bottom, basically telling you that you were never important anyway. And what Drake is learning is that he too is susceptible of this treatment. He's learning that he as well is someone who is not immune or exempt from this type of treatment or behavior. And this is a shock to him. This is a shock to him because he doesn't want this to happen. Obviously, people are talking about the deal that he was in negotiations for, I guess, that would put him in a position of power and make him worth, I guess, a lot of money, or make him have more leverage in his position when it comes to his contracts and the people who he's professionally associated with. But if they don't want you to make that that deal, or if they don't want you to be able to have the leverage to make a deal, they'll make sure that you don't have the leverage to make that deal. They're not going to allow anyone, in my opinion, to get to like the level that maybe Michael Jackson was at when he was very much so in a strong position of dominance with Sony, right? I don't think they're going to ever let anyone get to that level. And I don't know necessarily what Jay-Z has going on business-wise, but I just feel that all of these individuals within the music industry or within the entertainment industry are going to have a really hard pill to swallow, and they're going to have to deep throat it without any water, because this is something that I feel is going to happen, which lends credence to a lot of what, let me just say, it lends a slight deal of credence to a lot of what Black men speak about when they say they target Black men in prominent positions in order to take them down and to remove their power, right? And I get that, because obviously, yes, that's true. That's what happens. But there's also other factors that go into that, because, you know, I know Drake's heritage is mixed, but what I'm saying is, if people like Drake or people like Bill Cosby or people like Michael Jackson or people like the Diddy's of the world, right? They are all in some way, shape, or form corrupt. If only when it comes to even doing business with these moguls and with these head owners and operators of these industry businesses. Just by them signing the contract and doing the deals, they in turn are corrupt. So therefore, when they get into the positions that they're in, they have to make a decision about how corrupt they're going to be in relation to how far up the ladder they want to climb. And then when they make these decisions, those choices and the outcome of said choices are then used as leverage against these individuals to be able to at some point take them down or bring them down to the level that we see when it comes to a Bill Cosby or a Diddy or now a Drake. So unfortunately, it's like a lose-lose. It's a never-ending battle. It's a battle that a lot of these artists and entertainers will never be able to win, because in order to be a part of the club, in order to be allowed access to the group, you have to be an unsavory character on some level, in some way, shape, or form. And while it may be true that they are targeted when they're at the peak of their success, it's kind of contradictory, because had they been quote unquote good people or ethical people, they would have never reached that point of success. They would have never been allowed to reach that point of success. So in my opinion, it kind of feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes down to like how these individuals are treated, whether it's a Black man, a white man, a Black woman, a white woman, any person, any race, any ethnicity, any heritage. That is the nature of the beast, literally, when you get into these industries and you sign these contracts and you do the things that they want you to do. When you degrade yourself or you bring filth or negativity into your community, meaning like where you came from. When you perpetuate negative stereotypes and you perpetuate negative behavior and action within the people who are influenced by you. That's the nature of the beast. And unfortunately for Drake, he's learning that the hard way. He's learning that he is just another cog in the wheel and that he is expendable. Hey Siri, what does expendable mean? Oh yeah, I was right. But that's the whole point of it. That's what Drake is learning at this very moment in time. And actually, I feel like Diddy is learning the same thing too. And if Drake were smart, he would take a page out of Diddy's book of what not to do when these types of situations come to the light. Because we know old boy Jay-Z, he's taking notes on all these situations, because child, allegedly his day gonna come too. And at the end of the day, all of our day is gonna come. Everything that's done in the dark comes to the light. Not comes to the light, comes to the light. Ooh, Ooh, interesting. The slips are very interesting in this video. Drake should be really taking notes on the mistakes that Diddy is kind of making. Obviously, Diddy is showing everyone in the industry and everyone who has skeletons in their closet how not to handle situations. And one thing that I feel like Drake is doing wrong when it comes to the court of public opinion is the fact that he's deflecting. He's deflecting a lot of what's happening onto other sources and other things. But if Drake would have come out, I guarantee you, if Drake would have come out and been like, you know what, I don't necessarily like what's being said, I want to address a few things. If he actually like brought the lawsuit or the appeal or whatever it is in like a position of admission of guilt, I would say, because we've all been talking about it, right? Everybody's been talking about how Drake has benefited from this system for a really long time. And now that it's against him and the system is not working in his favor, now he wants to cry a river of golden tears. But it's like, if he would have come out and said, you know what, this is a crooked system, and I know it's a crooked system because I've been benefiting from the crooked system, and been so totally transparent with the way that he approached the situation, not only calling out the people who are at fault, but also the people who benefit from this negative, like infighting type of behavior, also taking accountability himself, called himself out, and let his fans know that he's been slacking the last few years, and you know, all the things that have been going on in his life has changed, and just been very transparent. I feel like it would have gone over a lot better than how it's gone over thus far. I feel like he would have gotten a much more welcoming or understanding response from regular people, because they would understand that. They would be able to relate to whatever stress that he could be going through, even though it may not be in the same circumstances. But when it comes to the stress as a whole, or the anxiety as a whole, or the life changes as a whole, people would have been able to relate to that more. But see, he wants to keep this whole top dog persona and all this other stuff and this fake phoniness that's not ever really been him, and it's just messing the whole situation up for himself. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what he's learning.
I love you, Drake.
When it comes to his disposability, if that's even a word, child, I don't know. That's what a lot of the artists that are coming into these industries need to understand. You guys need to understand that they don't care about you. You're just a number. Just like people in the workforce, in corporate environments, or in warehouse environments, or any type of laborious, regular, everyday, white collar, quote unquote, environment where you go to work, you work a job, and you get a check. This is how these corporations see us. This is how they view us. And I guess this is what I feel everybody needs to know. There's a few things I feel like everybody needs to know and pay attention to and start to acclimate themselves to and realize within the systems that we've surrounded ourselves with.
You better wake up and pay attention.
Is that you are just considered a number. You're not considered a person with family and friends and parents and children and responsibilities. You're not considered a human being. You are considered a number in a code full of other numbers that basically trickle down to what they see as the bottom line. And I spoke about this a little bit in the video that I did talking about my tooth being messed up. If you guys didn't go watch that, go watch that. But I worked for a long time in HR where I would work with managers on the back end, or employees on the back end of the workforce. Basically, people who were on the front end would come to me and my team to assist with any of their issues with time management, their time clocks, their pay discrepancies, things that had to be fixed with their vacation days and things like that. And part of the job that we had was to process terminations, whether they were voluntary or involuntary, and they grouped them in those two different categories. And basically basically, if you had a voluntary termination, it would be something where you, I guess, quit or gave your 2 weeks notice, or you were a no-call, no-show. And then if you were in a situation where maybe you got laid off or your position was eliminated or you got fired for any type of disciplinary action, it would be an involuntary termination. And when I saw, which it quite frankly broke my heart, right? And it was a topic of conversation amongst people on our team. But when I saw that a person, I think there were a few different situations where somebody actually passed away. And I'm not sure exactly how they passed away, but I think it was a terminal illness that this person had for a while, and they were still working. And they submitted it. They submitted this person's processing of their information as a voluntary termination, as if this person quit or gave their 2 weeks notice. And I know involuntary, the category was more so like negative events or negative situations that happen. It was just a categorization, but to see and have physically conceptualized that a person passed away and you have to process their information out of the system as if it was voluntary. It's such a weird feeling. Like, I don't know if I'm articulating it properly, but it's such a strange feeling as if that person chose to die. And it just drove home the point to me and to a lot of my coworkers that we don't matter, that nothing about what we do matters. It was also bad because a voluntary termination meant that you chose to leave the job, which means that any type of financial compensation that the family may have asked for or wanted would be impossible, because it makes it seem like you chose to leave the job, but in fact, in reality, you passed away. So it just, I don't know, it's just a huge mind fuck. And what I think a lot of people who aspire to be in any industry need to understand is that that's how they see us. That's how they see the people who perpetuate the business's progress forward. They see us as just pawns on the board that aren't really as important as the bigger pieces that we're standing in front of, that we're protecting, that we're blocking. And it just relates back to that pyramid of capitalism. Because if all the pawns on the board were to move, yes, it would be very difficult for us as pawns. And yes, there would require a lot of teamwork and camaraderie, which I feel like a lot of us aren't ready for because we haven't been pushed far enough to be ready for it. It hasn't gotten bad enough for us to be ready for it. But if all of us were to move aside, or if we were to tip the pyramid over, all of it will crumble. And not to say that we wouldn't create a pyramid again, but it just goes to show that you have to value yourself and your character and your ethics and your morals over other things in life. Not only do you have to value those things over other things that aren't as important, but you have to constantly reevaluate and calibrate yourself to understand if those ethics and those values and those morals are of good standing. Because none of the black men or celebrity figures or influencers who basically become exposed, none of them would be able to be exposed if they didn't make questionable decisions on a regular basis over and over and over again. Again, like I always tell you guys, I don't have all the answers. I don't presume to think that I'm perfect, because at the end of the day, if all of our dirty laundry was aired out, more than likely we would all be exposed for something. But if you are a person who tries to do your best to live your life, quote unquote, right, and to just be a good person, to just treat people right, then it's a lot less likely for you to get caught up in the whirlwinds of these types of situations. Not only in participation, but also in how it affects you and what it causes you to react and respond to. I just think as people, sometimes we need to realize that all of these people who've been propped up on these pedestals are just like us. Well, funny, just like us. They're not really like us, but they are just like us. I mean, you never know when you're going to be the person who is presented with the opportunity to be propped up on that pedestal. You never know what you're going to do when you're in that position. Me personally, if I was offered a large amount of money and something that could basically take my family out of an impoverished situation and put me in a place where I no longer have to struggle, but it would require me to do something really bad or negative, it would be hard to say no. But I also am the person who is like a firm believer in like being able to sleep at night. I'm the type of person who I don't want to have to look over my shoulder. Like, even though the stress and the pressure of financial uncertainty is extremely daunting, I'm not sure if I would want to trade it for the stress and the pressure of guilt by association or guilt by my actions. More than likely, it would hurt me a lot to turn down something that could help me come out of a bad situation. But at the end of the day, I probably would turn it down. And if I made a mistake or miscalculated a judgment, then sometimes that happens and you may not be able to always control it. But personally, if I knew that I was like damaging a whole community with my lyrics and my actions and the things that I say and the things that I do and sending people down the wrong path, it would hurt me. Like, it would hurt me a great deal. And that's why a lot of people who feel that way, or a lot of people who relate to that sentiment, are never offered those types of positions, because we're never the ones who would be willing to do those types of things. We would actually do something positive with the financial gain that we accumulate from some type of major financial deal.
I love everybody, and at the end of the day gotta end.
I don't know, you guys. I just wanted to talk about it. It just goes to show you that no one is exempt. No one is exempt from being brought down off their pedestal. No one in this day and age, especially, like, Cat Williams said, is basically a reckoning child, okay?
And they know I'm gonna do the best job I can possibly do.
And no one is exempt from being brought down off of a pedestal that was either built on shaky ground or that was built off of lies and pain and violence and negativity. Your day is always gonna come, regardless of what that means for you, whether it's a day of positivity and reckoning for the wonderful things that you've done in your life, or it's a day of negativity and repentance for all of the bad things that you've done in your life. Your day is always gonna come, and it's gonna be a situation for you to discern and for you to decipher as an individual about what your day is gonna look like based off of the actions that you take now. So I don't know, guys. I just wanted to talk about it. I had to get nice and professional for everyone so I could come on here in my newscaster outfit to go ahead and let you know. I don't know what these accents are. What are these accents? But I had to come on here and let you guys know how I felt about this whole Drake situation. You guys get in the comments. Let me know what you think about what I said. Let me know for sure if you feel like I left anything out. And by all means, leave any feedback that you have regarding this video. I love to hear from you guys. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to continue to catch the vibe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.